Hello Internet, we're going to do another video where we talk about recent changes to the game that I have made, because again, I'm not really doing YouTube right now, but if I don't make some kind of Cataclysm content, people are going to riot. And because I've been making a lot of changes to the game, or a lot by my standards, I'm already very familiar with the things that I've changed, so it's kind of an update show, but it's also very centrally focused on what I have been working on. And I still don't know when I'm coming back. I'm sorry about that. I don't really know what to do with my personal life, so I am just trying to hang in here, but I thought I would throw you something here. So I believe when we left off previously, we had checked my Make Dummies Less Dumb PR. I remember somebody had thumbs down the PR, which bothered me a lot, so I think that's where we ended last time. So after that, I worked on skunks. So fun fact, skunks exist in New England, common whatever striped skunk, I forget what they're called. And there was a issue from NetSysFire a long time ago that referenced several creatures that they wanted to add to the game to reflect that we're in New England. In fact, there were several of these issues. One of them I remember mentioned snakes, which is something I had planned to work on as well, adding a few more snakes to the game, but I never got around to that. So I decided I would work on skunks here, and yeah, they exist in the real world, so why not in Cataclysm as well? So if we look up their entry here, pretty standard as far as creatures go. Remember, this is just a regular animal, this is not a monster. During my work, I copied basically the possum as the base level of everything, because they're very similar in size there. Oh, it's like a weird frog in my throat there for a second. So their speed, their HP, all that stuff kind of comes from the possum itself, but they do have a few things that are unique to them. Number one, they have a different day and night vision. I'm not really sure why, but the possums had really great day vision, which they're generally regarded as pretty poor eye-sighted animals. I personally only see them at night, so I'm pretty sure they're like nocturnal anyway. So I found it very strange that possums had such good vision. And for the skunk, I saw varying reports. Some of them said, hey, during the day the skunk, can see as far as a human, and then I saw reports that were like, no, it's pretty much blind unless you're right in front of them. So I didn't really know what to make their vision radius, so they just have a flat 9 and 9 for day and night vision, which is very unusual for most creatures in the game. They're not that low of a vision radius, but because this is just like an animal that you're going to encounter that has really nothing dangerous to it, I thought this would be okay. And then the other main thing that they do is their spell, which we will look up here. Using the spell system, I have made a special attack. In fact, it's not listed here, so we'll look at the entry instead. So the special attack for the skunk is that every, pseudo 10 turns, basically the cooldowns are not always accurate, but about every 10 turns the skunk can squirt you. And we print a nice little message here that says a skunk raises its tail and squirts. And let's look up, actually I can look this up in the PR itself, and you'll get this message here. It'll say it raises its tail and squirts, and then you'll get hit with the you're covered in a foul smelling fluid. And this appears in the effect menu. This is being skunk sprayed, which in the effects menu unfortunately only mentions that it lowers your perception and intelligence, but it actually does a lot more than that. So let's have a look at that. And so we can see this here. This is the effect that is caused by the spray itself. So we have the basic perception and intelligence modifier that we just saw in the effect menu, and it lasts 5 hours, by the way. I didn't really know how long to make a skunk smell, but since then Mail Clips has added a deodorizing spray, so you can actually remove this effect if you get sprayed. But it also adds a 1 in 2,000 chance of vomiting, which will cause you to have just occasional nausea, things like that, which I thought was accurate given that you're being sprayed by like glands in the skunk's rump. Seems pretty vomit inducing. It also lowers your chance of persuading NPCs, lying to NPCs, but it does very slightly increase your chance to intimidate them. It's a little freaky when the guy who approaches you smells like he's been sprayed by a skunk. It also increases your ugliness. Naturally, you're less appealing when you are sprayed by a skunk, and it actually increases the stench of your character for the purposes of scent tracking. So if you get sprayed by a skunk, you actually have more scent in the game, which makes it easier for enemies to track you by scent. Now, this is actually a relatively low effect here. I know it says 300, but it doesn't really correlate directly. Like, that's not as big as it sounds. However, I do think it's interesting that we even have this. I didn't see much that used the scent mask, so I thought, well, I might as well include that because it would make you easier for tracking. People did point out in the PR, like, hey, maybe you should make it so that it blinds you as well, just like a possibility of blinding you. But unfortunately, because I made this effect 5 hours long, I wasn't sure how to do those other effects without making them 5 hours long. Like, if I just added blindness to this list here, then that blindness would persist for 5 hours, which is obviously not how that should be. So I wasn't really sure how to do that. And in fact, I didn't know how to do a lot of things because I never used the spell system. So I think maybe in the future I can go back and dress this up a little bit. But I don't actually know how to do that, unfortunately. So had to leave that alone. We added a skunk skull as well, which is something that was not in the game. Obviously, if we didn't have skunks, most creatures around that size have their own skulls. So I did add that to the possible harvest when you butcher a skunk. And then we have the item itself, nothing special about it. These are just sort of throwaway items. In a later PR, I did come in and make it so you could also smash skunk skulls to retrieve bones, because again, that's apparently a very common thing in this game that you can do. So I did in a later PR add that as well. Down here we have just sort of the setup for the duration that it can be applied to your character. So if I recall correctly, it says right here, duration is 3 to 5 hours. I had to write it in seconds or moves or whatever, which is pretty annoying. But this is the attack itself that actually attaches the spell to it, so that doesn't really matter. Made it so that they can spawn. I based it off of the possum spawns, although just anecdotally I see a lot fewer skunks than I see possum. So for example, so if you don't know, I drive for a living. I drive at night, so I'm constantly seeing possum. In fact, last night I saw at least 2 possum. I just remember swerving to avoid them in the road. So I would say I see possum almost every single day that I'm at work, but skunks I actually see like once every, maybe once a week. They're just like noticeably less common. So I just based it on the possum here, and using my anecdotal experience, I made them a little less common than possum. And we have the skunk entry itself, which is not really anything significant. Obviously, they're mainly defined by their skunk stench. And yeah, that looks like that's it for that PR. Man, that took a long time to explain, but okay. So that's one thing I have been working on. Let's pop over to another PR here. I fixed that typo in the dummy description that we had seen previously. This is very simple. I don't even remember what it was. This one is made from wood and it's some duct tape to mark the striking points. So I just changed that to has. Very simple, very easy. Then we did, the big audit. So I noticed that a lot of things that, so when we have a vehicle part on a vehicle and that vehicle part is destroyed, meaning it's displayed as the X, right? It no longer has durability. It's been completely destroyed. And you take that piece off of a vehicle, it actually gives you a different material than if you uninstalled it. So let's think about, let's say you have a quarter panel on your vehicle, but it's fully destroyed. Normally, when you remove that, it would give you something like a sheet metal, but if it's been fully destroyed, it actually gives you like scrap metal instead of the sheet metal itself to reflect that it's been largely destroyed, and usually that gives a lot less material than if you had disassembled it and then taken the sheet metal apart. So that's something called breaks into, and it's assigned to essentially every vehicle part in the game. However, I noticed a lot of them were not displaying the proper materials. And I'm not going to cover this in detail because it hit a lot of things. If I go to each change here, you'll see this is like a 3,000 line file. You'll see here that I tried to reason out every single thing that I changed. Now this is only part 1. I actually did a second part where I edited the other 2,000 lines. But just to give you an example here, so a bed vehicle part used as, so it would disassemble using a seat group, which meant it would give things like the springs, I believe, and like pipes and things that it really shouldn't be giving. And even though seats can be used as beds and theoretically they'd be the same size, in other words, only one tile, I believe a bed here should have a higher fabric count, less metal / no pipes. It's literally just welding with no metal requirement, and 1 mattress is being used to craft this. This should probably be changed. I'm not doing it now. Okay, since the main metal would be coming from the mattress at the moment, I've decided it should be a few springs, mostly scrap metal, and maybe a couple wires. I've given them their own list instead of using the the catch-all seat list, and I believe I didn't give them any springs. I believe I just converted that to wires based on what the mattress disassembled into. So this is a pretty boring audit. I regretted doing this once I got started because again, it was like 3,000 lines and it seemed like almost every entry had some mistake of some kind. So for instance, a light wooden handle here would give you 10 to 15 long strings, even though at most it was made of 6 long strings. So obviously I just went through and audited and tried to use common sense to fix a lot of those things. Not very exciting, was extremely time consuming, took me several days to get through the entirety of the file, and I probably will never do something like that again because it is very tedious. All my family's gonna vacuum while I'm recording, huh? Alright, well I don't know if that'll come through in the recording, so we're just gonna power through here. It's pretty loud, apologies for that. I don't know where they are that I'm hearing that so loudly. Next up, we have the add craft, uncraft furniture version and construction to fancy tables. So basically, fancy tables were something that appeared in RVs, luxury limousines, and like a tour bus, I think is the third one. However, when you would take these apart, they would just not be placeable in the game. You could harvest them from vehicles, but it's just a fancy table and you couldn't construct it. You couldn't put it in your base. You couldn't really do much with it. So I basically gave you the ability to craft or disassemble those if you wanted to make them from scratch for your vehicle. I added a furniture version so that it could be deployed into a furniture to use in your base, and I gave them a construction recipe so that you could construct it. I have a little checklist here if you want to have a look at that. There's really nothing special about this. It's not fancy in any way that matters. We don't track beauty or anything like that. It just seemed like, why, if we have this vehicle part that we can already take apart, why can't we just set it up in our base? And so I decided to work on that and add that. So we did run into a bit of an issue trying to get these merged. Apparently between the time that I added them to the PR and the time that they got merged, someone had actually deleted that file and broken it down into multiple other files. So I actually had to ask on Discord how to resolve this, and thankfully Kevin just, I don't know what he did, but he just zapped the 2 PRs that were affected by this and took care of that for me. So really appreciate that, because I don't know how a lot of GitHub stuff works, but yeah, we got that out of the way, which is nice. Next up, we have that deconstruction to the skunk skull. This is basically just there were other recipes that allowed you to do this. You take a skull, you take a hammer, and it gives you bones, and that's pretty much all this is. Nothing special there. That took me like 10 minutes to just read, not even 10 minutes just to read and figure that out, so I put that together. Then we had a tweak of the wind turbine recipe. Very boring. I'm not even sure it's worth it to do these. Some recipes, basically you auto learn them at a certain skill level, but you also can learn them from books, but the book level is higher than the auto learn level, so you can't actually ever learn them from books because you will already auto learn them before you need to read them in the book. And if that doesn't make sense, that's okay. Just know that dozens and dozens of items have this problem where their books are essentially pointless because you auto learn them at an earlier level. So I did change the wind turbine to be auto learned at a slightly higher level so that if you get the books early, you can basically learn the recipe early. And like I said, dozens and dozens of items have this issue. I'm not sure if it's worth trying to audit them. People have said, hey, we're going to change the way book learning kind of works eventually anyway, or auto learning works eventually. So I don't know that it's worth it, but I did already do this one, so you know, whatever, it's happening here. Next up, we have a closed PR for fixing an electric blanket. Basically, it was pretty late at night. I decided I wanted to tackle an issue, and I just completely did it the wrong way, and someone chimed in and was like, hey, this is the wrong way to do that. So I just closed it because they were right, and I don't know what I was thinking. So next up, we have the added bronze wood saw to the miscellaneous recipe or repair kit. Everyone's familiar with the miscellaneous repair kit. Kind of a valuable item, right? It repairs things, and that's pretty handy. And it does have a saw component, and even though the bronze wood saw and the standard wood saw have like identical identical qualities and all of that stuff, they couldn't be used in exchange for each other. So I just added the bronze wood saw to that crafting recipe. So you can now use a bronze wood saw instead of a regular wood saw if you want to craft these, which, you know, obviously the bronze one is something you can craft, whereas the proper wood saw is something something you're more likely to try and find yourself instead of crafting. Next up, we have the thing I'm probably enjoyed the most, which was to expand nightmare snippets. Now, we actually talked about these in the main show probably like 2 months ago. There was a big audit to try and make these dreams a little bit more vague instead of being very specific. Like, remember, there was the one where it like specifically named your teacher, and then your teacher was like photographing kids in the bathroom, and they stalk you into the bathroom, and it's like a weird nightmare that was way too specific. And so there was a big audit to rein these in and make them more generic. So like, here's an example. You awaken from a nightmare about slipping out of a plane into a pitch black sky. That's really basic, really straightforward. It doesn't impose any kind of previous experience on your character. It just sort of is a generic nightmare that you might have. And so because I like to write, and because there were only about 50 of these, I decided, hey, I'm going to just spend one day just writing like a million dreams, basically. It didn't really work out. I didn't get as many as I wanted, but we did go from 55 to 122, so obviously there is a big expansion of nightmares there. I love writing. I love making things up. I love telling little stories. I don't know that they're all perfect. Some of them are a little too specific, but Irk, I guess, I think he merged it, so he must have given it a thumbs up, right? It's kind of was his to review, essentially. And I just like doing these things. So like, you have a nightmare that everyone died while you were sleeping, which obviously, you know, implies like you were dreaming, and then you wake up and you realize, oh, that actually did happen, so that's a bit of a nightmare. You dream of cataloging the names of the deceased, entering them endlessly into a spreadsheet, like, you know, you're just endlessly putting the names of the dead in a spreadsheet. You dream you're trapped in an elevator, unable to escape. Outside there are gunshots, screams, and then a trickling scent of a house fire. Again, just, you know, generic, like maybe it was pre-apocalypse, but you're having a nightmare. Maybe this happened to you, or maybe it's just a weird nightmare that you're having, because I don't think that's so specific that it actually like forces character traits on your character. Seems like just a generic nightmare you might have. You dream of losing your mind, forgetting all that you know, and becoming one of the many. You dream that you're a time traveler. You go back to tell your past self about the horrors to come, but after your hours of pleading, you just won't listen. You wake from a nightmare of being torn to pieces, lying in the filth of the road, and waiting for the end. Anything else that's interesting? You dream you're walking about in a mall, but the corridors and stores are empty and shuttered. Something is watching you. You wake up feeling lost and alone, thinking of someone you used to know. You nightmare you're standing over a fresh corpse. You try to drop the knife, but it seems welded to your hand. I have one in here about ferals somewhere where it's like basically you have a dream of being attacked by a mob, and they're just like pipe wielding maniacs, and so it kind of hints that they're ferals and whatever. But anyway, so I enjoy writing, and this seemed like an area that was really ripe for expansion because there were only about 50 of them. Man, I hope you can't hear that vacuum cleaner constantly down there. So I was really excited to do this. I enjoyed sitting down and trying to write for once, because I don't do it enough. And yeah, they were merged, which I think is really cool. So I'm very happy about that. That's the first writing I've really contributed to the game. Next up, we have Fix Up Travel Toilets. So this is kind of the same thing I just did with the fancy tables. There was actually a toilet that's added to the game that's supposed to be one of those travel toilets, which is like a no flush. In fact, I have pictures down here of the one I based it on. So there was already a toilet in the game. It was used in a specific trailer, and I wanted to use it in a bunker. I am working on a background project where I'm putting together, I'm expanding survivor bunkers a little bit. It doesn't matter. We'll talk about that in the future if I ever finish that. But so I wanted to place these toilets because they're not toilets. They don't require running water. They're just a thing you sit on and you basically poop into a bag, right? And then you dispose of the bag. So that's what these are. So I just tweaked them a little bit. I set them up so that they could be deployed as furniture. You can take them down, things like that. It's really not very special. I didn't even really want to do this. I had just been planning to add this to the bunker, but it didn't quite make sense. So I did want to do some adjustments, and I think I added like they can be disassembled or something. I don't remember. But so yeah, you can now deploy travel toilets if you wanted one in your base for like role play reasons. Obviously they don't do anything in the game, but we already had them in the game, so why not let the player, you know, deploy them? So I did that. And then we have adjust bathroom scale. This was just, honestly, I was having a really bad day. I could have fixed this and made this a PR that works, but I was just really sad. And Carol pointed out like, hey, this recipe doesn't make sense. So I was just like, yeah, I just can't be bothered to deal with this today. So I just skipped that one. And then we have one left here, which is to finish that big audit of vehicle parts that are breaking into other things. This is like the other 2,000 lines of file that were audited. Actually, we can look at this in my reasoning here is probably the easiest way to look at this, because I wrote out for every single thing that I changed, why I changed it and what I changed. You'll see there's quite a few things here that are being audited. So this one, I don't know, maybe someone has to review it. I don't remember. This is probably an older one now. When did I submit this? 4 days ago. That's not bad. Someone will look at it eventually. It's not a big deal at all. And I hated it. By the time I was done, I was like, I'm never auditing anything again, because this is pretty ridiculous how much work goes into this, and not knowing, like, I tried to base things on like 15 to 30% of their base materials, but some things like would be made of like 3 giant electric engines that should give like thousands of copper wire. So like an outdoor extension cord, it's thicker and longer than an above extension cord, giving a staggering 900 copper wire when disassembled. So I've increased their copper wire drops substantially, because like to begin with, these will drop like 5 or 10 wire, and it's like, why? They are made of 900 wire. Why wouldn't they drop way more than that? So anyway, it was just sort of that really boring crap that nobody likes doing. So this took forever. And then Furry Armadillo did chime in. And again, I was having a really bad day. I think this was the same day as the scale thing. I was having a really bad day. I wasn't really able to understand what they were suggesting. So apologies to them for being so, again, we've talked about it on the channel. Mental health's not doing too good. I have a really hard time focusing and doing things sometimes. I get hyper fixated and I work on, hundreds of lines of audit all at once. And then other days it's like I can't focus on anything and I can't even pay attention to the things I enjoy. So Fury Armadillo did point out that, hey, some of these should be mild steel, because we have mild steel lumps and chunks now. I didn't fully understand what they were asking me to do, so I had to clarify, and they were very nice about it. I like Fury Armadillo a lot. I don't know if I've ever said that. I think they've been very constructive. They chime in on a lot of PRs and issues and things, and have a lot of they clearly know a lot about the game and are very active with the community, and I just really appreciate that. I know there was some drama that I'm not really happy about how that went for them, but yeah, I enjoy that they are still a part of the project and that they're talking to people and helping guide people as they do things. So apologies, I didn't understand you. It wasn't personal. I just have a lot of mental stuff going on. And that's the end of what I'm working on currently. Now, there are other things I have planned. Number one, I want to expand skunks. I want to give them a mutated version. So that's something I would like to work on today. It's my day off, so I have a little extra time today, and no appointments or anything. So I would like to take the skunks that I added and give them a mutated version. And it's not going to be some horrific 800-pound monster that's going to cause you a lot of problems. I just want to make a bigger skunk that has a more impressive spray and more plausible claws to use for attacking, that sort of thing. But obviously the spray, I just want to learn more about the spell system. So I want to take the existing spray and maybe add an effect where it deploys clouds of gas wherever it sprays. It's so intense and pungent that it actually causes those gas clouds wherever it lands, which I think is a cool idea. I have no idea if I can execute it. That's not going to be in the game right now, and I might never even work on it. But that's a plan I had. I wanted to check out if that's possible. I mean, I'm sure it's possible. I just don't know how to do it. And then I am currently working on a bunker. In fact, I can pull this stuff up. Okay, so you've probably seen these bunkers before. Usually they're underground, so ignore the boundaries here. This wouldn't be above ground in normal circumstances. These are called survivor bunkers. They were added from a mod several years ago, and I've seen them a few times. They're definitely not very common, and they're always identical. They always have this exact same layout here. So above this, on the ground level, it's the one that's surrounded by pit traps and things like that. And then once you come down, there's a tripwire here. There's a couple bear traps, I think. And I'm going to change this door to not be locked. I don't understand the interior rear door being locked. Doesn't make sense to me. But I'm pretty sure the idea of these is that this is a bunker being built by a survivor in the woods. So it's literally a guy digging a hole in the ground and starting to reinforce it with wood and build an underground bunker. There was a true crime case where a guy did that. I don't remember what that case was. But anyway, this is the base level here. It starts with 2 cots. It has crates which can contain food or tools. It has a couple books here that are just like random books and a survivor note on the thing. And then we can see here where they're digging out an addendum, like an extra room back here. And so my idea was that I wanted to expand these because I like underground bunkers. And I used to, actually, for those of you who have been around forever, I had a mod like 5-6 years ago that added specifically bunkers, underground bunkers to the game, which is now defunct and I don't use it. It was called the Caches mod. If you're interested in looking anything about it up, it's obviously very outdated at this point. Someone said they were going to fix it up. I don't know. That was like 3 years ago. Maybe there's a version out there that's good. But anyway, my idea was, since they're actively digging out this bunker, why not make 3 versions of this bunker? So here's version 1, right? You come down, they're digging it out. They have the middle living section where they've built up supports and actually have wood walls. And then they're clearly digging out a background here. They're trying to brace it with some sandbags, or maybe these are extra to reinforce up here. I don't know. But it's just dirt. There's nothing back here. It's just dirt in that area. So if we go back here, it's just dirt mounds. There's nothing special. There's no items. Even if you dig this up, there's nothing underneath. And that's really it. Let's get a clairvoyance artifact while I'm paying attention here so we can actually see everything around us. Now, my version, which I've been working on, was stage 2. So I wanted the progression to be each version is going to have slightly more dug out and built up to be a room. And then on top of that, each version is going to hold more enemies. So this one starts with 2 cots, which implies 2 people live here. So the next version would have 3 cots and the next version would have 4 cots. And then we would just increase the enemy spawns each time, right? And then on top of that, each room is going to expand every time. So let me generate the other version that I've been working on. Okay, so here was my idea for stage 2 of the bunker. So one of the things we did was remove a lot of and this is a work in progress. I'm not done with this yet. So I have no control over, like, some of this stuff has just been sort of put together to be quick and easy and out of the way. So don't judge it yet. I'm not done with it. But the basic idea was, take what was existed before, which was just this room, have them build out the room that they had been previously digging out and begin digging for a third room. We removed some of the soil up here. I don't know, we probably will change that. We increased their spawn slightly, but that needs tweaking. And yeah, so they basically just have the second tier of the bunker just has an addendum here. And this includes a cot and a set of bunk beds. So it actually has 3 beds now to accommodate up to 3 people. I moved some of the furniture around. Again, just a real work in progress, but this is the travel toilet in here, which I know I've been getting errors about. I guess the toilet paper isn't spawning properly. It's supposed to spawn with some toilet paper. But yeah, this is the travel toilet. That's why I ended up tweaking that, because I wanted to use it in this bunker instead of just the one place that already spawned in the game. So it's obviously not anything special, but by the time we get to the 3rd stage, there will be like a proper little stocked bunker down here. So I think when I do the 3rd room expansion, I'll make that the bedroom. I'll tweak this to be storage area, maybe cooking, that sort of thing. And we'll expand the bathroom a little bit to have some shelving and like toothbrushes, like normal bathroom stuff. And I think we're going to do away with the crates and just have regular storage, because once you would set up your bunker, you would just put all your food on like a pantry or shelving or whatever. But yeah, I just wanted to expand this bunker because I thought it would give me something to do that's pretty simple and easy. And I haven't done map gen in like 6 years or something like that. So that's what I've been working on. And by working on, I mean I've devoted probably 5 minutes total to moving some of this stuff around. But that's something I would like to do more in the future. So yeah, other than that, I think that's it for what I've been working on. I would like to tweak skunks, like I said, give them a mutated version. And I would like to get this bunker banged out. And then there was another creature I wanted to work on, and I don't remember what it was now. Skunks are too small to be zombified. I don't remember what the requirement size is, but we basically don't let zombies, we don't make zombie versions of creatures unless they're like 30 pounds or something like that, or 20 pounds maybe. I don't remember. I'll have to ask on Discord what the number is. But basically skunks are like, I don't know, 12 or 14 pounds. I don't remember, but very small. So too small to be zombies, but they of course can have a mutated version. Like obviously a bee is too small to be zombified, but we have giant wasps in the game because mutation is different, right? Anything can mutate in this game. So yeah, I don't know. rambly video. What is this? God, we've been recording 34 minutes. Okay. Well, probably many of you did not want to stick it out through all of that, and I'm sure I was very rambly. But everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I hope to continue contributing to Cataclysm, of course, and telling you about it as I go. Mental health stuff, not doing super well. In fact, had a long discussion this week with my therapist about how they think I should go into an inpatient facility, and that's very complicated, and I'm very scared of that, and so things aren't super great. I would like to return before my YouTube channel self-destructs and everyone forgets about me, so I would like to recover, but I don't know what's going to happen with that, and I don't know when I'm coming back or what's going on, but yeah, so I thought I would make this video to try and keep people from forgetting about me in the interim. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about what I've been working on. Obviously, most of it's not very special. It's little stuff here and there, but it just feels good to have something to do every day instead of just moping. And then I don't have the attention span for a lot of things, but for this, I've been doing okay. So why are these walls messed up? Why are they all vertical instead of horizontal? I hate that. Sprites look weird. I don't like it. I don't like it. Anyway, everyone, for now, thank you for paying attention to me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking interest God, I can't speak. Thank you for taking an interest in the channel. I'll be back sometime in the future. See you next time.